Now it's time for Paper Talk. Over the next few minutes, we're going to be taking a look at what's making the headlines in today's newspapers. Now, our guests this morning are The Athletic's Jay Harris and football broadcaster Dan Bardell. Good morning to both of you. We're going to start with Manchester United. I've got the headline in the Daily Telegraph ahead of me. It says, Ten Hag has to rely on loans. The Telegraph speaking about next month's transfer window. So, Jay, just give us a little bit more on this story.
United spent over £200 million in the summer, and the report is that they basically went over budget. They obviously brought in Anthony, Casemiro, Tyrone Malacia, and Anthony. And the situation now is that Ten Hag can basically only really rely on loans to get him through for the rest of the season. And for some Manchester United fans, that will be a cause for concern. Cristiano Ronaldo's left. There's an issue with Jadon Sancho. He's not back in training yet. And there'll be a little bit of concern that although they're playing well, they probably need a little bit more backup up front.
The durability of some of Manchester United's front players would be a concern to the Manchester United fan base, and probably Erik Ten Hag as well, in that, like Jay mentioned, Sancho, Martial's had his problems with injury, Rashford's also had problems with injury, and they've lost Ronaldo. And for Manchester United, a club of that size, having to be relying on loans to get through the season when they're potentially going to have such a hectic schedule coming up in the second half of the season, it's probably not good enough. I get that they were over budget, but they've lost Ronaldo. They're going to need a forward player because, as I've just mentioned, the durability of some of those players would be a concern, and it's a long season.
Jay, elsewhere in the Telegraph, they write about Jurgen Klopp. It says that the Jurgen Klopp factor swings transfer power away from Old Trafford. Elaborate some more on that story.
Well, essentially, they're drawing a bit of a parallel with Sir Alex Ferguson and how he used to, have these amazing powers of persuasion. I think they use an example of how he managed to convince Sylvester and Vidic to reject Liverpool to join United back in the day. But now it seems to have flipped on its head. Throughout the World Cup, it seemed like Cody Gakpo was destined to join Manchester United, and we obviously know that he's close to joining Liverpool now. And I think the suggestion is that the longevity and the success that Klopp's had at Liverpool, and just the attacking style of play, his charisma, is convincing players to turn down other teams. They also gave the example of Luis Diaz. He was obviously in talks with Tottenham before he joined Liverpool. Darwin Núñez was being trapped by Manchester United, but Klopp seems to just be able to pull out his trump card every time.
Yeah, I've been at events with Gary Neville in the past, and he says that football is cyclical, and at some point Manchester United will have their cycle again. And it is early days under Ten Hag. Klopp's had that longevity now at Liverpool where he can use his pulling power. Erik Ten Hag is such early days to his tenure as Manchester United manager that he's not in that position yet. I think sometimes Manchester United are just guilty of perhaps acting slow. Maybe they thought they'd get towards the end of January, and if Gakpo hadn't moved, they still needed a striker or a forward player. They could pull him in, but Liverpool just get their business done so fast and with so little fuss nowadays. They'd gazumped Manchester United if they were planning to do that.
Right, let's get to more potential transfer news, shall we say, in the Daily Mail. Sorry, it's quite a surprising one here from Craig Hope. It talks about Pickford puzzle. All right, that's their take on Everton's goalkeeper's future. They're saying that the clubs are circling around the goalkeeper as Everton are stalling on a new deal. So, Jay, what is the contract issue, and who are the clubs that are leading the race for Pickford should he decide to go?
Well, the puzzle here is that before the World Cup, Pickford agreed with Everton's board on a new 5-year contract. So why it's taken over 6 weeks for that to get signed off, where it's still not been signed off, is obviously will be a cause for concern for Frank Lampard and the Everton fan base. He's only got 18 months left on his current deal. So if this situation isn't resolved by the summer, he'd only have a year left, and then you're in really dangerous territory. The suggestion is Manchester United, Chelsea and Tottenham are all tracking him. And for me personally, the Tottenham links make sense. Obviously, Lloris is 36 years old. His deputy, Fraser Forster's 34 years old. Pickford's only 28. So you potentially be looking at Tottenham keeping a close eye on that situation.
You never know what the impact of the World Cup was. Jordan Pickford's obviously been away with a lot of players that are playing Champions League football. He's spending a lot of time with his England teammates, and if that contract was agreed, like Jay says, maybe that's perhaps turned his head spending the time with those players. I think in the summer there's going to be an interesting domino effect with goalkeepers. If a goalkeeper's to move, there's to be a big goalkeeping transfer. There needs to be that initial first transfer. But I think this summer's going to be quite unique because I think Manchester United, Chelsea and Spurs, they're all going to be looking for new goalkeepers. And with my Villa hat on as well, a bit of a worry about Emi Martinez, because I think a few of the teams might be looking at him. But Jordan Pickford's a fantastic goalkeeper, and in the modern day, yes, he's a great shot stopper, but he does the things with his feet that the modern day goalkeeper should do, and that's what those teams want to do, and that's how they want to play, especially Manchester United under Ten Hag. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on. I can see Pickford at Manchester United.
Well, let's have a look at the Premier League title race, and mind the gap is Pep Guardiola's message to his players. That's in the Express. Champions Manchester City, they take on Leeds in the Premier League this evening. City go into the game third in the table, Dan. They're behind Newcastle, and of course Arsenal are leading the way. What are Guardiola's fears?
Just the concern that the gap does get wider and that Arsenal do start to pull away a little bit. It's always difficult when you're the side doing the chasing, because there's no margin for error at all. And we've seen in past title races over the last few years with Liverpool and Manchester City being so tight, there's very little margin to make a mistake or even draw a game at times. And the way Arsenal are playing at the moment, they're going well, they're going good. Even though they've got Jesus out, it didn't make a difference to them. On Boxing Day, they still came back, showed resilience and won the game relatively comfortably. So Manchester City have got very little room to slip up at the moment. I look at their fixtures in January, Manchester City, and I think they've got some good games. I think they'd be expecting to take maximum points from all of their games in January, but this is the Premier League, and sometimes you never know what can happen.
Well, obviously City, I'm not too sure if they will be expecting maximum points now, because they've got Chelsea, Man United, Tottenham. I think they've got a couple of cup fixtures thrown in there as well. Obviously, the key difference here is that Arsenal are in this situation for the first time under Mikel Arteta. And we saw how they struggled last season to get into the top four and ultimately failed to do so. And squad was invested in the summer, but you'd still say that they probably need one or two additions to really go for the full charge for this title race. And obviously, Guardiola and Man City have been here so many times. You wonder if that experience will be a crucial factor, especially as you get towards March, April, May, those crunch months.
Well, we're going to go back to the Daily Telegraph for this final story, because they're saying that Arsenal are going to build a statue for Arsene Wenger. The former Arsenal manager was pictured meeting Bukayo Saka for the first time after the Boxing Day win over West Ham. Right, OK, so Dan, can you give us some background to this story?
Yeah, I've got to be honest, I hadn't realised Arsene Wenger hadn't been back since he left. I was surprised to see that on Boxing Day when he was at the game. So it looks like there's going to be a statue built outside the Emirates. And again, be honest, I thought that was something that would already have happened. Arsene Wenger has left an unbelievable legacy, and he's a big part of that ground as well. The work he did whilst that was taking place it was unprecedented at the time, a little bit of a scale back at Arsenal. So he's just a modern day hero, Arsene Wenger. Be rewarded with there being a statue of him outside the ground, and the Emirates is decorated quite nicely outside, paying tributes to legends, and Arsene Wenger's definitely someone who deserves to have that same level of tribute.
Yeah, I'll just agree on that. I think the reason why there's been a little bit of a delay is obviously towards the end of Wenger's time at Arsenal, there was a split in the fan base. Some of them wanted to stay, some of them wanted him to leave. He's obviously publicly spoken about the fact that he felt like he was forced to leave. So I think everybody who's an Arsenal fan and everybody, to be honest, who's just a fan of the Premier League knew and kind of hoped that one day that Arsenal would build a statue of him outside the stadium. But I think there needed to be a little bit of time for healing on Wenger's side especially, but also on the club side. But obviously they were singing his name the other evening, so it seems like that healing's definitely been done.
Yeah, well, it is definitely will be good to see that statue built, and of course Arsenal flying at the moment. Jay, Dan, thank you very much indeed for taking part in Paper Talk this morning.